I don't think anybody has the energy that would be necessary to listen to me do what I did this morning. Um, it is on. It's just me in the late afternoon. Um, well, what I gathered from the remarks that have just been shared by our esteemed panel on the dais here, in the chairs, is speak softly and carry a copy of the Declaration of the Rights of People with Cognitive Disabilities around with you everywhere you go. And I would like to say just a word or two about the Declaration and how I plan to use it. We don't need to be as strident as Tom Gilhool was strident when he championed the rights to education for people with disabilities back in the early 1970s. We have a lot of momentum on our side. We have a lot of people with disabilities, with cognitive disabilities, who are advocating more successfully for themselves than we, as non-disabled people, will really ever be able to do as effectively. We have to realize that. We have to be modest about our role here at the same time that I told you this morning we have to raise hell. We have to be modest with respect to what our position fundamentally is. And it's that of being largely, in this audience, a non-disabled individual who is taking from a person with a disability an auction ticket, basically, to advocate. Never forget that when Ari gets to that mic, my ears open wider than they do when someone else who does not have a disability or is not self-acclaimed with a disability. Because I know that the future is really going to be driven by people with disabilities, primarily. And even though we've got a good plan here and we've got a good role, strong role to play, we must remember that the role that we play is to support people with disabilities and their families. And even inside those families, it's the people with disabilities that need to have a certain centrality too, and a certain degree of independence, and a certain degree of, I define my own future. I am the master of my fate. So no matter how successful our conferences are, and I think this, I'll agree with Bill, this was probably our most successful conference to date. We won't every year have a new declaration to develop. We won't every year have a conference that may be as impacting. We won't have an Elisa Varney to be here to come across the ocean and to basically achieve all the dreams that I had for her to be and to do here. And I think we should give Eliza a hand. Because what she did to come to an unknown destination in an unknown country that had been bombarded by nature the last few weeks, and then greet an audience that was new to her. But what wasn't new to her was how intimately she was connected to her content, how well she knew that content. She knew that content because she took 4 years to write that book, and she worked with 4 or 5 countries to do it. And the depth of her knowledge was as profound, I think, and as impacting as any speaker that we've ever had. So we thank you for coming. We know this was not an easy thing to do, but we feel like we want you to have the feeling to go back to your country, Britain, and feel like you did a hell of a job over here. Tell your chairman of your department and ask him to write me if he would like an endorsement for your tenure when that comes around. Can't we say that? Let's give her a hand. I can't thank Enid enough for all of the stress that she's had to go through in the last 9 years, 9 days. It's been kind of tough, and it seems like everywhere we would turn, we couldn't go home and be relaxed because home was in a little bit of turbulence with the weather. And so it has been difficult to put this on. So to Shay, Tanis, I thank you for all you did today to help this thing run smoothly, for Joy Wu, for Rick Hempf, and basically we had a pretty, oh, how did I forget Jeff? And of course the AT people, but Jeff has been easily the leading computer science student contributor that we've had in the history of the Coleman Institute, and we will all shed a tear when he leaves and goes to Silicon Valley. And I don't know that he will, but he would have the option, to put it that way. And he's done such a terrific job with us, and I think it's been mutual in the sense that he has been open to learning about disability. And that's not something that every computer scientist tries to do, Clayton Lewis being the notable exception. But it follows that his student, Jeff, would follow in those steps and be open to learning about disability. So we're going to have one guy that worked with us all the way through on the declarations, worked with us now for 4 or 5 years. He's going to, if he goes back to Silicon Valley, going to make some, I think, real impact in regard to cognitive disability in that realm, if he chooses to do so. So thank you for coming. We know that some of you came from out of town, and you came into a weather zone that, unbeknownst to you, might have been more challenging than it turned out to be. It really wasn't very challenging. It was one of the most beautiful days you could ever have in anywhere in the United States outside. Of course, you didn't get outside much. We kept you inside in the dark. But we appreciate your attentiveness. We want you to tell your friends and neighbors and colleagues to come to the Coleman Institute meeting next year. It'll be about this time of the year. We will certainly have a major report on the status of the Declaration of the Rights of People with Cognitive Disabilities to Technology and Information Access. We will have additional panels that will be contemporary. We will be, unfortunately, sad to not be able to have Renee here with us, unless she's in another incarnation with another disability organization, we hope, but we can't count on that. She has been a steadfast supporter in her organization. ANCOR has become a backbone. We have multiple backbones in the Coleman Institute Conference now, and ANCOR is one of them, and a big, strong backbone, and that is a testimony to the commitment and the opportunity that I think that, Renee, that you saw, maybe in ways, better ways than we did, about what you could do to disseminate what we're trying to disseminate to the field. Because ANCOR really is, ANCOR and the ARC are the backbones of the service delivery sector of the field of developmental disabilities nationally. And with Ann Cameron Williams has done the same with the ARC, former student at UIC, and Maggie has been outstanding in AAIDD as a former president. I'm thrilled that that organization is behind us. And I was just wondering how many of you actually have accessed the article that our staff at the Coleman Institute put together and is online. Give me a hand. How many of you have actually seen it? Okay, well, it won't be very, although there's the editor back there who's raising his hand. But I want to encourage you to do that. I would estimate 200 person hours went into that 5-page document. And I'm not overstating it. We would have written it much more easily if we had been willing to make it much longer. It was written with great care. And I didn't have a chance this morning, I think, to say enough about how that article should be read before you walk into your congressman's office, before you walk into your boss's office, before you walk into anybody in a position of power that you're trying to influence with respect to the Declaration. The reason is because we've given 1,000 hours of thought to what the most important points are to mention. And you don't have to mention them all, but find a section, a paragraph, a sentence or two in that article that will ground you mentally before you go into a congressman's office, before you go into a university office where someone wants to hear you make a pitch about cognitive disabilities and so forth, and you use it for that purpose. That is what it's intended to. If there's a way I could mate it with the Declaration itself, I would do so. We've done everything we can to get it in your hands and get it disseminated through AAIDD electronically. And you can get hard copies of it on our website. We have purchased 2,500 copies that you can just come to our website. Don't do all 2,500, though, at once. And you can come to our website, and you can download copies if you're going to go give a talk or something. But remember that you are sophisticated in your understanding of the Declaration now compared to everybody else in this country. And everybody you interact with will not be on the same plane that you are on. They will not take for granted, and you shouldn't take for granted, that they will understand it readily. You're going to need to present it in very simple terms. And the way I would encourage you to do that is read that article before you walk into a room where you know you have to talk about, or you want to talk about, the Declaration. I will, because I know that I will forget the nuances unless I reread that article. Because we worked very hard to get that language where it could be used for just that purpose. And when you walk into those offices of congressmen and agency directors and so forth, be sure to beef up your language on what you're trying to advocate for. That's what that document is for. So we'll be here next year. I think we'll be in this hotel. Did you all enjoy this hotel? Was it a good place for you to stay? Yeah. Yeah. October 9th, I'm told, 2014. Ian and I have certainly experienced great support from the hotel. We have had a conference here once before, years and years ago, but we think this hotel kind of set another standard for quality. And I want to thank anybody that's here with the hotel for their support here. And I want to thank all of you who came out of town again for coming to Colorado whenever there was quite a weather problem that we had. And that's really about all I had to say, and just to thank you again. Thank Bill and Claudia for all that they've done for the university and for the movement. It's been quite a ride so far, and we're not getting off the, it's not a merry-go-round, we're going forward. It's a hike. It's a hike through the mountains, a hike through the dells, a hike to the ocean, and a hike that will continue much longer. Thank you.